Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So real quick introduction to today's video. So COVID's happening. We've all been home for about 2 months now. A lot of us are working from home and we're moms. So we're working from home. We're teachers now. We're teaching children. We're childcare advocates. We're taking care of our babies. I don't know about you guys, but I have been overwhelmed, admittedly so. There are moments where I'm really overwhelmed. It's a lot to do, it's a lot to take care of, and it's one of those things where there's not a lot of room for error. So I've reached out to one of my friends who is also a mom. She's a mom of two. She is also a productivity coach, and I wanted to get some advice from her on how we can maintain productivity during this time. As a mom, how can we balance all our responsibilities and manage to stay sane during this time? And we basically had a conversation about that, and I wanted to share it with you. So watch the video, let me know what you think down below in the comments. Please subscribe. And I wanted to just give a disclaimer. So we had a little bit of technical difficulties during filming. I was using two cameras and a computer, and at some point the cameras died. So I don't know what that will translate to in the video yet, but if it's a little bit wobbly and a little bit unclear, just bear with it, please. The message is very good. You will enjoy the message, I'm sure. And of course, I think the videos will get better with time. So thanks for watching. Sorry I sound a little bit out of breath. I am actually multitasking. I'm cooking dinner while filming this introduction, and my son just woke up from his nap, so I'm gonna go in and get him. But I just quickly wanted to just film this introduction while my hair is looking nice and I got a little makeup on. But anyways, thank you. Subscribe. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Hi, a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we're on track. Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're having a conversation with my very good friend, Roseanne. Roseanne is very, very, very accomplished at her young. How old are you? Do you mind sharing?
I'll be 35 in June.
35, wow. Okay, so Roseanne is a mother of two. She's a wife. She's a published author of 2 books. She is a life strategist and a productivity coach. And she's also a project manager for a very busy transportation hub in one of the busiest cities in the world. And she manages to do all of this with grace and a smile on her face. And she's very devoted to her faith as well. So she makes time for all of that, plus God. So I thought I thought it would be a good opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with you about how other moms can learn from you on how to be productive, how to balance it all at home and in the workplace. So thank you for joining.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. And what an awesome introduction. I'll send you a check later.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, obviously things have changed a lot throughout the world in a matter of weeks. One minute we're all busy moms and we're going to work and we're dropping the kids off at daycare or school. And now we're all at home with husbands at home and all the kids at home. And now we're once again in a situation where we're expected to wear all these different hats and juggle everything. So we're now moms, we're teachers, we're cooks, we're chefs, we're everything all at once. And I personally can't help but feeling overwhelmed sometimes.
Right.
How do I meet the expectations at work? How do I not ignore, but how do I show as much attention to my 18-month-old while I'm working and while I'm doing dinner and everything? It becomes overwhelming sometimes. So that's one of the reasons why I reached out and hope that you could have some advice for me and other moms who are facing this as well.
Absolutely. And before I get into any tips or anything, I definitely want to start off by saying I don't have all the answers. I think one thing experts do is, we come on and we share all these tips and we say, okay, great, now you're fixed, go do it. But I want to really make time to say that I don't have all the answers, and everyone's situation is different. So the first thing I think is important is exactly what you just did, which is acknowledging your feelings. And I just want to validate those feelings. All those feelings are valid. The overwhelm, the anxiety, all of them are valid. And what I would say is to take proactive and reactive measures for overwhelm and preventing burnout. So what that looks like is the proactive measure is knowing your triggers. So for me, I feel like I can be super mom, super wife, super everything for 3 hours and then I crash. So like at 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, okay, kids, breakfast is served. Now we're going to start homeschooling. And then I hop on my computer at 8:15. And then by 11, I'm like, nobody looks at me. Nobody talks to me. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
So I think proactively you find out what stresses you out. What is your vantage point? Like, where do you strive? Are you a morning person? Are you a night person? I'm going to talk about a lot of different things, but I want to make sure that we only stick on the parts that resonate with you. Okay. So managing expectations, I would say, is key. And it's on many different levels. So let's start with managing expectations. One, manage your own expectations.
That's true.
This is something that is absolutely new. Homeschooling has always been an option, but we didn't choose it because we didn't want to do it.
So now we're not qualified, right? We're not teachers.
So it's funny because my husband and I said that we wanted to do homeschooling starting next year. Yeah. But I always felt, I wasn't patient enough. I don't have the grace to do it. I don't want to scar my kids by, yelling at them like 2 + 2 is not 10, So I personally didn't want to do it because I didn't want to scar my kids. Yeah. But, after discussion and looking at the pros and cons, we decided that we wanted to do it starting next year. So this provides an opportunity for us to try it on. But I will say it's not how we would have done it. I would not be working a full-time job, commuting 2 hours per day and all those things. So back to managing expectations, I have to manage my own expectations. What is a realistic expectation of what I can do in one day? So when I was commuting, that was part of my self-care because it was my me time. So I could read, I could sleep on the bus, I could do all these different things. That has been taken away. But the flip side of it is now I can roll out of bed probably an hour later, right? Yeah. Or maybe I'll use that time to do something else. So there are different angles of each thing. But with managing expectations for myself, it's just saying, you know what? Maybe I could have done these 5 things for myself in a day, but now I'm going to focus on the 2 things that are important to me. And then you go to managing expectations in your household, whether that's with your husband or with your children. Have an honest conversation. So am I able to cook every day this week? Sure. Am I not able to cook this week? Can you chip in? Let's do it. Do we make a batch of food on Sunday and then we reheat? Like I personally don't like eating leftovers unless it's Jamaican food or Nigerian food. But for some things, I will make a batch of rice and then that will last a day or 2, or I'll just throw it in the rice cooker where I'm not physically over the stove. So, there are different strategies and tips we can play with. I want to mention 2 quick things. I also think you have to manage expectations with school. I had a gym teacher send me a very stern message saying, physical education is a mandate from the state, and we need to make sure that your child is staying active. I have not heard back from you on your physical education assignment.
What?
Okay, so my child is 5. Whether or not I want him to run, he is going to run. He is getting cardio in. And I just said to her, I will get to the assignment as soon as we can, but please know that he is getting physical education every day. Yeah. When I think of it from let me walk in her shoes, I'm like, you know what? Maybe she's over there stressed. Like, if we're going to cut jobs, maybe we're going to cut PE first, right? Yeah. So I could see her being that way, but I think her approach could have been different. Yeah. Like, hey, gentle reminder, or just want to let you know that I have to do XYZ, or just checking in. Is everything okay? How do you know that I'm not dealing with 3 family members affected by COVID and you're here asking about gym?
So this brings up a point though with the managing expectations is that we need to, and it's a part of managing expectations, we need to be kind to ourselves and
Absolutely.
kind to others. We have to understand that this is a pandemic and people are dying and people
right.
have family who have been affected. So you can't be oh my God, I have to meet these numbers at work and I have, you know what I mean? You can't be so rigid. You have to be kind with yourself. And if some things slip between the cracks, then so be it. You know what I mean? As long as you're healthy and you're happy and you're keeping safe.
I couldn't agree more. You have to give yourself grace, because even with that gym teacher, you know, she was like, you know, I know you're doing your best, et cetera, et cetera. But I just feel the busy work and the accountability, there's a different approach to it.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how that played out. So the reason I share that story is because I want moms to feel empowered to say, no, exactly. I can't get to this today, because what the friction and the tension you're going to create in the house, like, you have to do this, you have to do that. Everyone is going to be stressed.
Laps around the backyard.
Right. The last thing I'd say is manage expectations with your job. You know, a lot of companies are showing up as, okay, business as usual. I expect you to be on the laptop, respond to every Slack, text, email message in record time. And I think you have to manage expectations. And the way you do that is you communicate. So either you say, I saw your email and I'll be sure to get back to it in X amount of time, or you have the proactive conversation that I'm expected to do 5 hours or 8 hours of 2 hours of homeschooling every day in this time.
Yeah.
I'll hop off my laptop at a certain time and I'll come back on. Or you just say, we have to be more flexible. Companies have to show up as social, you know, socially. Like, I understand that you are having a change, we're going through a pandemic. Yeah. So let me be a little flexible with this deadline. Everything cannot be about the bottom line.
Man, we can have a whole other segment just on that, because another thing that I feel like companies don't take into consideration is our mental health. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we can spend these hours working and we can balance work and children and home life. But at the end of the day, there's this mental health aspect where you're stressed out and your anxiety level is high, especially as a mom, because you're worried about whether or not you're going to be sick every time you go to the supermarket. You know what I mean? So you're trying to balance all of this mentally and try to keep a brave face at work and a comforting face at home when there's literal turmoil going on inside your head. And it does affect work, you know? So we could go into a whole different segment about how to manage expectations at work and how to have these conversations with managers at work to ensure that they're looking after your physical health and your mental health as well.
Yeah, and I even want to work. Right. I even want to balance that piece out, because, you know, some people may feel empowered after we say this, like, oh, you know, I need to have a conversation. I need to be proactive about speaking to them. But on the flip side, it may be that the person feels by communicating that they can't keep up, now they become, you know, a target for, well, Roseanne can't keep up, Shireen can't keep up. If someone has to go, maybe we'll let them go because they couldn't handle it anyways. You know, so there's a very delicate balance.
I was thinking about this at work, and it's not even if they won't let you go or you won't lose your job, I hate the fact that they'll look at somebody who is keeping up and excelling as someone who has talent. Right. And someone who may be struggling at home, that person isn't as talented. And that's such an unfair judgment. And I've seen it a lot in my workplace. You know what I mean? And maybe somebody's home life is different because they don't have children. Or they don't have a husband, or they don't have other factors going on at home, even if they are married and have kids, that would impact their job. And it's not fair to like judge that person who's doing really well as they're talented and someone who, you know what I mean? Because
and I can understand where the overwhelm comes in, because you probably don't want to have that conversation because you're afraid that maybe you won't get furloughed or you won't get laid off. But when it's time for promotion, they'll say, oh, well, you know, Shireen, she really has the issue with the work-life balance. Let's not consider her, you know? So that's another part. Which, honestly speaking, I think moms are the ones you want to give these jobs, because clearly we're amazing project managers. How do you cook, clean, do this for the husband, do this for the kid, and still come up looking how fabulous you're looking? That's a project manager.
We actually had a conversation in one of my mom groups that could this be, so one of the mothers in my group said she was kind of nervous to tell this company she was interviewing for that she was on maternity leave. And I said, no, I feel like it shouldn't be our weakness. It should be our strength, because we're coming in with an experience at home on how to balance, you know what I mean? And how to, I'm having baby brain. I can't remember the term, but you can do different things at once.
Multitask.
Yes, multitask.
Yeah.
And we know we're now experts in that area, and I feel like we should use it as our strengths at work, and work should recognize it.
Yeah, and I really hope that after this pandemic, the corporate culture shifts and people will see it. So instead of saying, "Oh, look at Jane, she has kept up with every deadline. I know she doesn't have children." Now you say, "How in the world did Shireen do it?"
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I'm hoping the shift will be. And also for companies who weren't open to their employees working from home, now making it a part of their option. So do you want to work from home 3 days? And even if you're not home with the child, but, just making that an option. So I really do hope that one of the positive things.
Now you see that every job can be done at home, right?
Thank you. Thank you.
Once you have internet, you're good.
That's it.
So back to some of your points. So manage expectations. There was something you mentioned before about time. And so I've known you for a very long time, and I've seen your journey, even from you were in school until now. And there's things that you've said to me over the years that stuck with me. And I remember a conversation we were having. I think you were in school doing your master's at the time. I don't remember if you had come back from China or if it was before, but you said something about being disciplined. So if you have goals, if you have set goals and it requires that you get up in the morning at 8 o'clock to do an assignment, then you get up. You don't hit the snooze button. You know what I mean? And that stuck with me because I felt like, okay, if I want to do something, don't make excuses. Just get up and do it and be disciplined. Now that you have a child, now that you have 2 children, I have a child, how do you maintain discipline? Because you can set a schedule. You could say, okay, I'm going to get up at 8 in the morning. I'm going to have breakfast by 9. I'm going to jump on the computer, work for 2 hours, etc., etc. But guess what? Your child is not reading that schedule, and you're not invited. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you might want to have them sit and have breakfast and be finished by 9. But I know my son is just like, nope. Yeah. So it's very hard to maintain a schedule. It's hard to be disciplined. How do you be flexible and still achieve goals, but realize that you can't be so rigid in a schedule?
And I think you honestly just answered it, because what I was going to say is that you have to be flexible. So for me, I'm a very structured person. I like knowing what I plan to do for the day. I need to know what are the priorities for the day and make strategic plans to tackle them. But during this time, you have to be flexible. So whether that means waking up at a certain time so that you have an hour to yourself before you do things for the children, or going to bed later. But of course, you have to balance that out, because are you going to now be mentally exhausted and physically tired because you were up for too long? So what I would say is think about the one thing you need to do in each category. So the first thing I would say is brain dump. Write down everything that needs to happen. And then from that, you take out the one thing. So for you, what is the one thing you need to do to maintain your sanity? Do you need 30 minutes of quiet time? If so, ask your partner for 30 minutes, wake up 30 minutes early, go to bed 30 minutes later, put the kid in front of the TV for 30 minutes, whatever it is that you need to do to get those 30 minutes to be a nice person. Because I can go from Batman to Mary Poppins back and forth like in a couple of minutes. Yeah. So whatever it is you need to do for that time, just be flexible. And the reason I'm saying that is because months ago, if you asked me about screen time, my kids have an hour of screen time per day.
Yeah.
Now, with homeschooling, with needing my own personal time, with all this, my kids don't watch TV all day, but I'm a lot more flexible about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even with meals, like I'm very big on having healthy meals. So I will say, okay, we're going to have this amount of vegetables. We're going to have this amount of fruits. We're going to have a balanced meal. I remember one day I was just so tired. I was in bed and my 5-year-old came to me and he said, "Mommy, can I have this?" And in my head, I'm like, it's probably candy. It's probably chocolate. I don't care. And I said to him, "Sure." And he said, "Mommy, look, like at least look at what I'm asking you." And I turned around. It was like a Pedialyte ice pop. And I said, "No, that's medicine. You can't have it, but you can have XYZ. Yeah. I was just at the point where, listen, if you want to eat a leaf, eat the leaf. Okay?
Yeah.
So
that brings back to the point where you need to be kind to yourself. You know what I mean? You can't. We are superwoman, but we need a break sometimes.
Yeah. And I'll also talk about that superwoman point. But to finish answering the question, think about that one thing. So the one thing for you is the 30 minutes that you want. What is the one thing you need to do at work? So yes, you have to check your emails. Yes, you have to do all these other things. But if you only did one thing, what would make you feel accomplished? Is it spending 2 hours on this project? Is it responding to all your emails? Is it scheduling a meeting for whatever that one thing is that's going to propel you and set you up for all the other things that need to happen? Work on that first.
Yeah.
And then you talk about homeschooling. What's the one thing the kid needs to do? Maybe the one thing overall or the one thing in every subject. So in English, do they have to do this? Or is there the one thing that has a deadline? Everything else you can do whenever you want, but this one thing needs to be done at 3 p.m. What's the one thing you need to do for the husband? What's the one thing you need to do in the home?
So it's basically creating priorities so that you're not overwhelmed by a giant list of things that need to be accomplished.
Right. Because, and you know what? We'll always have things to do. And I think that's where trade-offs come in. So, for example, my kid will say to me, Mommy, can you watch a movie? And the first thing I'm thinking, that's an hour and a half. Do I want to do that? And the trade-off is, okay, I can watch this movie with you for an hour and a half. You feel all warm and fuzzy. We build on our quality time and it's a win-win. But then I'm also thinking, but what about the dishes? What about the laundry? And what I realized is they are so faithful. Those dishes will be there the next day. That laundry is still going to be there. So those domestic chores that you have to do, they're faithful. And this is why we're saying be kind and be flexible. Because a couple years ago, me telling someone to leave dishes in the sink overnight, absolutely not. It still bothers me today, but if I have to choose between sleeping and washing dishes, I'm going to go to sleep.
Yeah, I'm going to go to sleep.
And I will say that even though I don't do it every single night, for the past 2 years that I've adopted this mindset, I have not had any pests or any insects. So
there's no negative consequences. You got a good night's sleep and you're good to go. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I find that I've done the same. Like I tell myself that I've adopted this Elsa perspective on things where I just let it go. Just
let it go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I like to do is draw on the walls. And you know me, I love my home decor and I like my place to look neat. But I'm just like, listen, I'll paint the wall, I'll wipe it off later. You know what I mean? Like, it's distracting him. It's taken away from his screen time. He's being creative. Let him go ahead. I'll paint the living room when this is all over. So,
there you go. And you know, some people listening might say, oh, I would never let my kid draw on the wall. I would never leave dishes in the sink. I would never let somebody let my kids watch TV for X amount of time. Yeah. And that's fine, because what's most important to us is that we're not shaming each other. We're not judging each other. We're being kind to each other. And while we'll give tips, that's just to help you with some introspection, but we're not telling you what you should do. So if one thing doesn't resonate with you, that's fine. Just make sure that you're not judging someone else for doing it.
Yeah, you do what makes you happy and what brings peace and harmony to you.
Right. Yeah. Because I've showed up some different ways in my household. You know, sometimes I'm the drill sergeant, like, did you do this? We have to do this. Clean the house. And then sometimes I'm the voice of common reason, like, it's okay that didn't happen, you know, or it's okay. So we have to be kind, but we have to be flexible.
Yeah, I think that's key to maintaining your sanity.
Absolutely.
I mean, not just during this time, like period. I think you need to learn to be flexible.
Right.
Otherwise, you're setting up false expectations of yourself and things you can't achieve. You know?
Yeah. And you know, I'm just going to quickly say, one of the things that I mentioned in the beginning with my triggers is I know that I had this 3-hour window of excellence. And I said, you know, I can be super mom, I can be super wife. And then you and I also joked about, you know, the superwoman, whatever. But honestly speaking, I would say we need to burn the superwoman cape.
Yeah.
We need to burn that thing. And
we don't have supermen. Like, I don't understand. Why? Where did this even come from, this superwoman?
Right.
Sorry, I need to cut you.
No. That's a good point. Like, where did it come from and why do we accept it?
Yeah.
When that notion came up, we should be like, no, thank you. I don't want it. You know,
I don't understand. So I find that in becoming a mother, I'm probably becoming more of a feminist because I'm just like, society puts so much expectations on us. So much. And it's so unfair.
Yeah.
And that's a whole other topic for another video that I could just go into because it's something I'm becoming passionate about.
Yeah.
Like, why is it that I have to balance taking care of a home and cooking dinner and putting baby to bed and work? Why? You know?
So you know what? That's funny you said that because I feel the same way. But at the same token, I'm kind of side-eyeing some of the feminists like, well, now thank you. Because of you, I can work and now I need to work.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
it's both sides. One side is I want to empower women, but on the other side, it's also what did we take on for ourselves? We're the ones who said, I am equal. I can do the same thing a man does. I don't want to take out garbage. I don't want to open my own door.
Yeah, that's
So
true.
I'm okay with being the woman. So, again, it goes back to what do you want? If you want to work and you want to be the homemaker, then that's fine. But I think it's important to have conversations with your spouse. If you intentionally decided to be a single woman, then whatever comes with that is what you bit off. So if I said, you know what, I'm just going to adopt a child because I don't want to wait around for a man, then I need to understand that that's going to put me in a position to be the homemaker, the breadwinner, A, B, C, D. If I decided that I want to get married, then based on the conversation I have with my husband, I have to true what I agreed on. If I decide, like we all make decisions and some of the decisions were made for us, right? Like, so if you got a divorce or if your spouse died or things of that nature, that's not something you chose. But I think for the most part, we have to look at it and say, how much of what I'm going through is what I took on? Are these expectations something I created? Am I the one who said the dishes have to be done by 4 p.m.? Am I the one who said I have to do all these things? Or is it really my job, my spouse, my child, the education system, the media? Like, who is really putting this pressure on me? How much of it is self-inflicted? Yeah, so I do feel like some of the superwoman tendencies or expectations are self-inflicted. So we need to acknowledge what we took on for ourselves, like what parts we bit off that were too much for us to chew, and then just manage those expectations and make the adjustment.
Yeah, I agree. There was something you said earlier. Now my memory is going to fail me again. Listen, this baby brain thing.
That's all right.
Yes. Did I write it down? All right, we're going to have to edit this part out.
Or leave it for authenticity.
Oh, I remember now. So I was having a conversation with one of the mom groups, and she made a point that women can only be successful at work because we pay other women to look after our children. Mm-hmm. And that kind of hit hard because I'm like, is that true? I mean, is that saying that the stereotype is that men don't help enough at home with kids?
Right.
I mentioned that to you earlier, and you had a different point of view on it.
So I won't deny that there's some truth to the statement. I will, however, say that times have changed and times are changing. So the reason I don't want to give a resounding yes is because a lot of men are showing up as primary childcare providers. A lot of men are helping with domestic duties in the home. Like, for example, when I got married, the very Saturday after we got married, my husband was in the bathroom cleaning. I'm like, oh, okay. So that was good for me, because if it happened like 2-3 weeks later, I'd be like, oh my God, he thinks I'm a slob and that's why he's doing it, because but my husband is Nigerian, and I kind of prejudged him, like, okay, I'm not gonna have to do every single thing because he's alpha male or because he's African, but when I saw him doing that, I was really happy with the fact that he didn't assign it as a woman's chore. I found out later that when he was growing up, that was his chore. So it just kind of continued with him. So I thought that was awesome. So the reason I don't want to say the only reason we can thrive is because another woman is taking care of our child is because that will negate all the amazing men out there who do not have the traditional mindset that you have to do everything. Because if they are, then tell me when to quit my job. If you want to do traditional, then let me know and I'll stop working, right? But I will say that is true for a lot of people, but they're different phases, right? So if you're a blogger or you're an author and you have a newborn at home or you have school-age children, the newborn is going to sleep all day, so you can make time to write, or the school-age children are going to be gone for 4 to 8 hours per day. So then every phase and every stage is different. And I don't want to say that it's 100% true, but for a lot of people, that is the case. A woman is taking care of their child, or their child is in daycare, or their mom is taking care of the child. And that's what allows them to thrive at work.
I mean, I feel like that's why some of us struggle now, because there is no childcare, there is no nanny, there's no daycare. And you know what I mean? All of a sudden, we're back to where we have to manage expectations at work and at home in order to cope. So yeah, I mean, I think that's something we could talk about in the future in depth, because it's something I struggled with. So backstory on me a little bit. I had 1 year off maternity leave because I'm in the UK. It was awesome. But at the beginning, before I had the baby, I had all these goals for the year off. Like, I thought I was going to have a whole year off where I could start my blog, travel. I was doing my master's to do my dissertation. Like, I had a long laundry list. I was going to decorate our house. And then once the baby was born, I realized that, listen, I wasn't getting any of that done. And it became really frustrating. And I had a lot of negative emotions about it, because I just felt like, here's this giant list of things that I want to accomplish this year. And as it became apparent that I wouldn't be able to do any of them because it was just me and a baby and no family to help, I kind of felt hurt.
Yeah.
Upset, you know what I mean? But I managed my expectation and say, you know what? I'm going to just have this baby, just this one. So let me just enjoy the year off with him. And I Elsa'd it. I let it all go, and I enjoy the time with the baby. But then it made me think, like, wow, if I ever want to achieve anything outside of just everyday 9 to 5, is it even possible? You know what I mean? Because I have to be a mom. I have to take care of him. How can I achieve that balance? How can I pursue my dreams and see them come true while still being a good mom and working?
Yeah. And those
some days, I won't lie, I feel like it's impossible. I feel like even this conversation we're having now, at the beginning of the conversation, I'm like, I can't do this. He's upstairs crying. How can I put him to sleep in time to start this meeting? And luckily it all worked out. But you know what I mean? It does become discouraging sometimes. Like, is it possible?
Right. So there are a lot of things that I want to address that you said. I feel that we need to be innovative, right? We all know that it takes a village to raise a child. And right now, because of social distancing, we can't have that village, right? So one thing I did personally is I asked my mom and my dad, I said, can you give me 30 minutes per day on Zoom? So my dad does math with the 5-year-old, and then my mom does the 5-year-old sight words, and then she does a few sight words with the 3-year-old and his letters. And then she just added this on herself. She was like, okay, now we're going to do circa time. We're going to sing Itsy Bitsy Spider, and then we're going to do ABC. Nice. So that time, I mean, yeah, I have to do the IT part of it of setting it up, or my husband will just put them on Zoom and then set them somewhere. But those 30 minutes allow me to focus on work for that time. So I think we need to be innovative and say, you know what? I can't have the nanny come to the house. I can't take them to school. I don't have these resources that I used to have. But what I really want us to look at is, how can I strategically make progress without stressing myself out? So you mentioned something that I felt like, I'm not going to sit here as a productivity coach and say, oh, I've never had any feelings and, you know, I just woke up like this and I'm just amazing. The reason I became a productivity coach is because I found myself dating, engaged, married, pregnant in 1 year.
Wow.
So I started dating my husband January 2013. We got engaged July 2013. October 2013, we got married. November 2013, we went on honeymoon. December 2013, I was pregnant. So in 1 year, I had all those life changes. And I said to myself, but I still want to write the book. I still want to be a life coach. I still want to do A, B, C, D. Am I supposed to believe that motherhood is a graveyard? Am I supposed to believe that this is where dreams go to die? And I said to myself, I'm going to prove that that's not true. The interesting thing is, when I was single, I didn't write the book because I didn't have time. But when I had one child, I wrote a book. When I had 2 children, I wrote another book. So then what I realized, it was just priorities. So I'm not going to sit here and be insensitive and say, you need to make things a priority. You need to stop making excuses. For some people, that may be the approach. But for some people, they just need strategy, or they need to learn how to create harmony. I'm not big on balance, like making things equal, but harmony in terms of making everything fit together. So I said to myself, I am not going to believe that motherhood is a graveyard. I'm not going to believe that this is where dreams go to die. And I have to figure out how to do this. And what I did, I figured out how to do goal setting and allow for harmony. I am not a night owl. 9 o'clock, I want to be in bed. I'm an old lady. So don't tell me to stay up until 12. Don't tell me to stay up 2 hours after the kid goes to sleep. That's not going to work for me, because the next morning I'm going to be flustered. I'm going to be tired. Don't tell me to wake up 4 hours earlier either, or 2 hours, or even 1 hour earlier. I want my 8 hours of sleep. So how can I have it all? Well, one, you can have it all, but probably not at the same time. And two, you break down your goals into bite-sized pieces. So the first book that I wrote it on my lunch break. Did I write an entire book in an hour? No. I used 10 minutes every single day until I had an outline. The first 10 minutes, I was like, okay, don't know what I'm going to write about. Blank screen, writer's block. The next day, I think the most important thing to take away from it is the commitment. I did my 10 minutes every single day. Whether or not I came out with a sentence, I did my 10 minutes. And then I started to build momentum. The next day, maybe it was 11 minutes or 12 minutes. The next day, maybe it was 15 minutes. Maybe the day after, it was still 10 minutes, but I built momentum. And eventually I was like, I can actually do this. So I wrote a book on my lunch break, not one lunch break, but several lunch breaks. So I think a lot of the overwhelm comes from, I don't have 2 hours to work on this project. Well, do you have 5 minutes? I do not like to exercise. It is not my thing. But if I can do jumping jacks for 5 minutes, that's better than the nothing I did the day before. Yeah. So it is absolutely possible. And I just want to give virtual hugs to you and to every woman who thinks, this is where your dreams go to die. Motherhood can be the most amazing time of your life. Motherhood is going to push you. It's going to challenge you. It's going to show up as a reward. It's going to show up as an opportunity. And it's going to show up as a challenge at times. But I want to encourage you that you don't say, I can't do it because I have a child. You say, I have to do it because I have a child. Because now you're showing Zai what a strong woman looks like. And it's not just about being strength and superwoman, but in terms of resilience.
Yeah.
Now he has your example. I don't have girls, but I want my boys to see what this looks like. Not for me to be a prototype for the wife that they will have, but different categories.
I'm glad you used this story as an example, because like I said, there's things that you've said to me throughout the years that always stuck. And it's the strangest thing, like I have the worst memory ever, but there's little things that you've said and they're stuck like glue. And I remember when you wrote the book and you said, when I was single, I didn't have time. But now that I've had my son, I'm accomplishing so much more. So after I became overwhelmed and everything, I thought back to it, I'm like, wait, if Roseanne did this, listen, I need to reach out to her because I need to figure out how she did this. Now it makes sense. Bite-sized pieces in terms of goals, and you measure your success as incremental. So it's not something that's going to happen overnight. But if you devote 10 minutes a day and you work at it little by little, then you'll see success.
Right.
Notes.
And even with the goal setting, I think it's important to do a brain dump. Just drop everything on paper or on your laptop. What are these things that you want to accomplish? Because sometimes the overwhelm doesn't come from, I don't have time to do it. It's, I have 20 things that I want to do in this next 5 minutes.
Too much. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think if you say, okay, so I do want to write a book, I do want to start a blog, I do want to do all these things, just prioritize them and then list all the steps that it takes. So let's use the blog for an example. I want to start a blog. Okay, well, what are the things I need to do to start a blog? Well, I have to decide what website I'm going to use to host it. Then I have to sign up for it. Then I have to decide on what the content is going to be. Then I have to decide on, am I going to do it conversational? Is it going to be funny? Is it going to be professional? What is the tone of the blog? And then you start, okay, so what is the first one going to be? What's the frequency? After you list all these things out, it helps with clarity so you can unlock your purpose. Because if you're just like, I need to do a blog, okay, well, what am I going to write about? Am I going to talk about love? Am I going to talk about finance? Am I going to talk about everything? And that's your decision. Why? It's your blog. You do whatever you want to do. But you have to figure that out first. Otherwise, you're going to be on the computer like I was day one with my blank screen, like, okay, so what am I writing about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's important too, because not only because it's overwhelming, but if you have this massive goal, I want to start a blog. Mm-hmm. How can you judge your success if you know what I mean? It's like, you need to break it up. You need to say, okay, I want to write a blog, but today I'm going to create a website.
Yeah.
And then you can check that off the list and say, okay, that's done.
Exactly.
But if on day 2, you're still like, I want to write a blog, you can't check that off the list. You know what I mean? So you need to break it up into steps. And as you're going along, you check it. And that way it kind of helps you feel like
you're making progress.
Yeah, and you're accomplishing something, and then that feels good. So you don't feel,
And I know it's your interview, but I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
You were saying for the 1 year off, you had all these things that you wanted to accomplish. And for me, I think hindsight is 2020. No pun on the fact that we're in 2020. But now that you can look back and say, okay, I wanted to establish all of this in 1 year, and maybe I did some of it, maybe I did nothing, maybe, whatever it is, how would you have planned differently? So if you were supposed to do this again, or if you were just supposed to go back to you thinking, woohoo, I have 1 year, what would you have said, or what would you say is, what are your goals for this 1 year?
Yeah, I found that I've actually had this conversation with myself. What would I have done differently? And I found that there are things that I wanted to do for fun and for culture and things that were important. So me finishing my master's and doing my dissertation was very important. And I should not have procrastinated. I should have done that before having the baby.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I should have worked on it little by little, month by month. And I would have been at a good place by the time I had the baby. Then I wouldn't have to, worry about it. So that's one thing I would have done differently. You know what I would have done? I wouldn't have planned so much. I would have just said, you know what? I'm just going to wing it. It's a newborn baby. He's not reading my schedule. You know what I mean? I should just go by him and let him kind of lead what is important to him. It's important to build family and to feel safe and to develop and to smile and to be happy.
Yeah.
Do those things for him, you know what I mean? And not sit there and try to be rigid. I'm going to paint the bathroom. I'm going to remodel the bedroom. Where does a baby fit into that? It doesn't. You know what I mean? And that's not important because 2 years later, the bedroom and the bathroom are still here. And I can do it now, Yeah, so that's what I would have done differently. Not procrastinated. And then just plan things around him and his development and his happiness. Ultimately, that's what I did. You know what I mean? I let it all go and I say, you know what? I'm going to bring him to meet family and friends and be with his grandmother. And that's what I did. And it turned out to be really well. We ended up having a really good year.
And I love that because, like I said, hindsight is 2020. So you didn't know going into it what you should do. You did what you thought was best. So I love that you were able to be present and you just showed up and you were able to bond with your child. The only thing I want to make sure is that there's no regret. You're not taking any blame and you are being kind to yourself. So maybe you should have done the master's 20 years ago, but you didn't. So we're here now, we're not going to beat up ourselves about what would have been better, but I do love the introspection and the ability to go back and say, well, this would be good. So now the next time I have a similar circumstance, I can learn from it, but I'm not going to take any blame, judgment, or beat myself up.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think all the things I might have sacrificed, I gained something 20 times better. You know what I mean? I've had a year off with my son. And I know to appreciate that from living in America where usually your maternity...
My whole 12 weeks. 12 only 6 weeks paid.
Yeah, so I felt like I just had this incredible year with him. So even if the master's never gets done, which it will get done eventually, you know what I mean? I can't be upset about that because I can't buy that time back with him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then now that you know how to set goals, you can go ahead and do whatever you need to do.
Now I know. I mean, I'm learning. Now I know I can't build Rome in one day, right? So I can't, I want to do the blog and I want to do well at work and blah, blah. I can't do everything at once. So little by little and eventually it'll get done. Yeah. And I just have to learn to be okay with that. So that was something that was hard for me to accept because like I'd wake up in the morning and I say, okay, I want to remodel the bathroom and I want to do everything in one day. And if I only got one thing done, I would be so upset at myself because I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything. You know what I mean? And I have to just realize that you can't constantly focus at the end of the goal. You have to focus on the whole process and understand it will take time.
One of the things that you mentioned a few times is success. And I feel like success is such a moving target. So there was one point where, I have my high school diploma. I'm successful. I did it. Oh, so where's your bachelor's? Then you get your bachelor's and it's like, oh, great. Do you have a master's? So success is such a moving target that I feel like the most important thing is to define your why. So I'll give a frivolous example. Say, for example, I want Gucci shoes, right? why do I want Gucci shoes? Is it because my favorite celebrities have them? Is it because I feel like I work hard and I should reward myself? Is it because I want to buy something that has quality, so I'll have it for a couple of years? So it's the same thing with the degrees and all these things that we're trying to accomplish. What is the why behind it? Is it keeping up with the Joneses, keeping up with the Kardashians? Is it social comparison? Is it FOMO? Oh, fear of missing out. With being here in this pandemic, there have been so many debates of what you are supposed to accomplish once you get out of quarantine. And I'm just like, but what is the why behind it? Is it that when you go back to work on Monday morning, you can stand by the water cooler and say, so what did you do? Is that what you really live for? There's so many people who do that over the weekend. Like, I have to go to brunch, I have to go shopping, I have to do these 10 things. So when someone says to me on Monday, so how was your weekend? Let me tell you. So if I say that I rested over the weekend, then I'm whack.
That's true. That is true. I think I had wrote to you about that. Because I see on social media, not only social media, but I get all these ads pushed to me. Now that you have more free time, would you like to learn a new skill? How would you like to learn to sew or learn a new language? And I'm like, more free time where?
Right.
I don't have more free time. But then it gives you this pressure like, oh my God, I should be doing something else. You know what I mean? Like, maybe this is a time to start my blog or start my YouTube channel. Or maybe this is a time to finish school or to learn to sew or learn to speak a language. And if you don't do these things during lockdown, what does that mean? Does that mean that you have not used your time wisely? Does that mean that you're lazy? Some people just want to Netflix and chill and just spaz out in front of the TV. Is that okay? Which one is it?
And who gets to answer that question but that person, right? Yeah. Is it okay for you? Absolutely. So for me, while I think that the pandemic has presented a window of opportunity, people should be strategic about how they use their time. And I don't think a pandemic necessarily means that we should launch a book or not launch a book, write a book or launch a business. I think we need to understand that for a lot of us, this is double time. This is not downtime. So for me to go to the nurse who has worked 30 days straight without a break and say to her, so nurse, what do you plan to accomplish? She should smack me in my face and say, all I want to do is sleep. So for me to go to the woman who is caring for her husband or the husband who's caring for his wife because they were affected by COVID, or maybe it wasn't COVID, maybe it was just something else, and say, what do you plan to achieve? Not only am I judging them, not only am I being insensitive, but it's silly. And I just really hope that if people take one thing from this, it's don't accept the pressure and don't let the internet boss you around. Forget the FOMO, forget the social comparison. Maybe the most productive use of your time is to rest, to rejuvenate, to catch up on much needed sleep. Maybe it is to develop spiritually and to wake up and to rebuild your relationship with God. Maybe it's to finally spend quality time with people that you love, or to call your mom, or to call your best friend who you haven't spoken to in 4 weeks. Or go back to the basics of cooking, slowing down.
If that, if I could broadcast a message, it would be that. It's okay if you're not building Rome, if you're not outside painting, if you're not, you know what I mean? If productivity to you means that you have gotten 10 hours of sleep for the past 2 weeks and now you feel good, then that's a good thing. That's fine. That's okay. If it means that you've now had a conversation with your friends on the phone as opposed to never having time to talk, then that's okay as well. You were productive and you should feel good about yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's one thing I always tell my clients. You have to redefine productivity. When you come to me, I can hold you accountable to whatever you want to do. I can help you with strategy. I can help you to create harmony, but I cannot tell you what's productive for you. I could say, I think you should write a book, but that's my goal for you. What is your goal for you? You have to engage in harmony. You have to redefine productivity for yourself. Do not let anyone else tell you what productivity looks like or what growth should look like. Whatever you decide to do with your time, that is absolutely up to you.
Okay, so a mom comes to you and say, Roseanne, I'm stressed out. I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot going on. Give me some tips, 3 tips to cope during this time. What are the 3 tips?
So I would say engage in self-care, and they would laugh at me and say, how? That's not possible.
Yeah.
And then I would help them break down the time and understand that self-care does not mean going to the spa because the spa is closed. It does not mean getting a manicure. It doesn't mean getting a pedicure or facial. Self-care is doing what you need to do at that moment. So if self-care to you, if what I need right now is sleep, then that's what self-care looks like. So this question is a little bit hard because there's so many different scenarios, but let's say you have a newborn. So self-care in that moment is when that newborn goes to sleep, you forget about the dishes, you forget about the laundry, and you take a nap with that newborn. If you have older kids, then you communicate to them, mommy needs a minute. My kids are 3 and 5. And when I say mommy needs a minute, they know when this door closes, do not knock on the door, fend for yourselves. If you need to climb on top of the fridge to get a snack, go get a snack. And, I'm half joking because my kids do climb to get food. But if I know that I need a minute, I'm going to set them up. What do you need? You need a snack? Do you need whatever? I'm going to make sure that they have what they need so that I can do what I need. So I would say, back to the time, maybe you only need 10 minutes. Maybe you just need to drink some tea. Self-care can be so many things, and it does not have to cost money. That candle, that beautiful candle that smells so good that you've been just looking at, burn the candle, enjoy the aroma, and drink a cup of tea. So I definitely say start with self-care, and then I would challenge them on their why. Why is it important for you to do these 3 things that you listed to me? You said you wanted to start this. You said you wanted to learn the new language. If learning a language was so important to you, why didn't you do it before? Right? So, the whole pandemic thing is learn a new language, learn a new skill. If you wanted to learn French so bad, how come you never found 5 minutes to even find a website that can teach it?
Yeah.
Maybe it really wasn't that important of a goal. It's the pressure of the pandemic, of the internet saying, you need to do this. So I always challenge people on their why. Why is it that you want to do this? After you can come up with a why that either benefits your legacy or is really personal to you, then I'll help you to create strategic goals. And then a third thing, one of the many things we talked about, managing expectations, being kind to yourself, creating strategy, harmony. We could choose from any of those. Yeah, so I would just say, you are enough, there is enough, and you have enough. And as cliche as that may sound, you are enough. The way you're showing up right now, it's enough. You have enough. So you have enough time. We all have the same 24 hours. Use the strategies to learn how to use them. And there is enough. There are enough resources. You just have to be strategic, be flexible, be innovative. But virtual hugs to that mom who needs strategy, and just be kind to yourself. That's the most important thing.
But one thing I wanted to mention too, so I have access to you, thank God. But for any other moms who are watching this and they need a little bit more advice catered to them, how do they reach out to you?
So you could definitely go to my website, which is just my name.com. So that's www.rose, ROSEANEUWAGUE.com. You can go to my website. I have a blog with tips. I have videos that I've participated in, whether it's a webinar or a speaking engagement. I have a link that can allow you to do a 15-minute free strategy session with me. I'm not very social, so my Instagram, my last post is probably a year or 2 ago, but it's RUWAGUE, and that's for Instagram. I'm also on Facebook if you just look for my name.
Okay. And I'll put all the links below as well. Perfect. So thank you so much. I feel like we have other topics we could talk about, so maybe this is just part 1, and we'll have some more video collaborations if you will allow me to.
Awesome. That would be amazing. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I think it's so necessary. We have to just have this community and this safe space where we can talk about it and where we can be honest and say, I'm not doing okay. I'm not okay.
Yes, I agree. Because there's so many of us who we go through the same things. And if we continue to build this silo around ourselves, and we'll just keep going through it alone when we could benefit from each other's experiences and advice.
Yeah. And I think the last thing I would say is that I hope that we don't forget these times of overwhelm or these feelings where we feel like we're unable to cope, because that's when you become the judgmental woman saying to someone else, oh, you should work out. Oh, you should do this for your kids. Oh, you shouldn't do this. I feel like a lot of moms forget where they have been, or they neglect to realize that they have resources that someone else probably doesn't have. Like maybe you had your mom, maybe you had a nanny, maybe you had a personal trainer. So my final thought would just be, stop the body shaming, stop the mom shaming, stop judging each other. Let's just all be kind to each other, and most importantly, be kind to yourself.
Amen. Yes. Amen. Thank you so much, Roseanne.
My pleasure. Thank you for creating this safe space for everyone.
And stay safe. Speaking of safe, please stay safe. Hug the kids.
Will do.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.